When police raided Dennis Rader's home in 2005, they found something chilling. A carefully organized collection, jewelry, driver's licenses, and photographs of his victims. The BTK killer had kept souvenirs from every single murder for over 30 years. But why? What compels a serial killer to risk everything by keeping evidence of their crimes? Today, we're diving into the dark psychology behind trophy taking. Welcome back to Criminal Psyche, where we explore the psychology behind the world's most disturbing crimes. Today, we're examining one of the most chilling behaviors in criminal psychology: why serial killers keep trophies from their victims. This isn't just morbid curiosity. Understanding trophy-taking behavior has helped investigators link cases, identify suspects, and ultimately save lives. So let's explore what's really going on in the minds of these criminals. First, let's define what we mean by trophies. In criminal psychology, a trophy is any item taken from a victim or crime scene that has no practical value to the killer. We're not talking about stolen wallets or electronics that can be sold. We're talking about personal items with emotional or symbolic significance. Common trophies include jewelry, especially items the victim wore regularly, driver's licenses or identification cards, photographs of the victim, either taken before or after the crime, clothing or underwear, personal belongings like diaries, keys, or hairbrushes, and in the most disturbing cases, actual body parts. Now, it's important to distinguish trophies from souvenirs. While the terms are often used interchangeably, some psychologists make a distinction. Trophies are typically taken to symbolize dominance and control over the victim. Souvenirs are kept more for nostalgic or emotional reasons. But in practice, the line between the two is blurred, and the psychological motivations often overlap. The key point is this: these items serve a psychological purpose for the killer. They're not functional, they're symbolic. So why do they do it? The first and most important reason is what psychologists call fantasy reinforcement. Serial killers often live in elaborate fantasy worlds. Long before they commit their first crime, they've imagined it hundreds or thousands of times. The actual murder is the culmination of this fantasy. But here's the problem: reality never quite lives up to fantasy. The experience is over too quickly. The victim doesn't react exactly as imagined. The killer feels a momentary high, but it fades. This is where trophies come in. Trophies allow the killer to revisit and relive the crime. When they look at a victim's driver's license or touch a piece of jewelry, they're transported back to that moment of power and control. It's like a psychological time machine that lets them re-experience their fantasy whenever they want. Jeffrey Dahmer, one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, kept Polaroid photographs of his victims in various states. He later told investigators that he would look at these photos to relive the experiences. The photographs weren't just documentation. They were a way to sustain his fantasy between kills. This reliving serves another purpose. It temporarily satisfies the urge to kill again. By revisiting past crimes through their trophies, killers can sometimes postpone their next attack. It's a dark form of self-medication, if you will. But like any addiction, the effect diminishes over time, and they need to kill again to achieve that high. The second major psychological factor is power and control, which is really at the core of most serial killing behavior. Many serial killers feel powerless in their everyday lives. They may have experienced abuse, neglect, or humiliation. They feel invisible, inadequate, or emasculated. Killing gives them a sense of ultimate power, literally life and death control over another human being. But that moment of power is fleeting. The victim dies, and with death comes the end of the killer's control. Trophies extend that control beyond the grave. Dennis Rader, the BTK killer I mentioned earlier, described his trophies as projects. He would carefully organize them, catalog them, and return to them regularly. Each item represented a person whose life he had taken, whose fate he had controlled. The trophies were proof of his power. This is also why many serial killers meticulously organize their collections. It's not just about having the items, it's about exerting continued control and order over them, just as they did over their victims. There's also an element of ownership. In the killer's twisted psychology, the trophy represents ownership of the victim. I took this person's life, and now this part of them belongs to me forever. It's a grotesque form of possession that continues long after the victim's death. The third psychological factor might surprise you: validation and identity. For many serial killers, their crimes become their identity. It's the one area of their lives where they feel competent, powerful, and significant. Their normal lives may be marked by failure and mediocrity, but their secret life as a killer makes them feel special. Trophies serve as proof of this secret identity. They're evidence of their accomplishments. In some cases, killers create elaborate displays or catalogs of their trophies, treating them like a twisted resume or portfolio. Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer, kept his victims' heads as trophies. He later explained that he felt proud of what he had done and wanted to keep evidence of his crimes. The trophies validated his sense of accomplishment. This need for validation can also lead to some of the riskiest behavior. Some killers insert themselves into investigations, contact media, or even communicate with police, all to get recognition for their crimes. The trophies are private validation, but some killers crave public acknowledgement too. Israel Keyes, a serial killer who operated across multiple states, went to great lengths to hide his crimes. But he still kept trophies and photographs. Even though he wanted to avoid capture, he still needed physical proof of his actions to validate his secret identity. Let's talk about something called the cooling off period. The time between murders when a serial killer returns to relatively normal behavior. During this period, trophies play a crucial role. They help the killer maintain their emotional connection to their crimes without actually killing again. Think of it as a pressure release valve. When the urge to kill builds up, the killer can interact with their trophies, look at them, touch them, arrange them. This provides temporary satisfaction and can extend the cooling off period. This is why the discovery of trophies is so significant in investigations. If police find a well-organized collection of items from multiple victims, it tells them they're dealing with an organized serial offender who is likely to kill again. The presence of trophies indicates someone who is deeply invested in their criminal identity and who relies on these items to manage their compulsions. However, there's a dark irony here. While trophies temporarily satisfy the killer's urges, they also reinforce the fantasy. They can ultimately make the next murder more likely. It's a vicious cycle. Trophies postpone killing, but also ensure it will happen again. Here's something fascinating. From an investigative perspective, keeping trophies is incredibly risky. These items are direct evidence linking the killer to their crimes. A single driver's license or piece of jewelry could result in a conviction. So why take the risk? The answer reveals just how powerful the psychological compulsion is. The need to keep trophies often overrides rational self-preservation. This is one of the ways that psychology defeats logic in the criminal mind. Many serial killers have been caught specifically because of their trophies. When police search a suspect's home and find items belonging to victims, the case is essentially closed. Yet killers keep taking this risk. Some killers try to mitigate the risk by hiding trophies carefully, or by taking items that won't be immediately missed. Israel Keyes, for example, would sometimes bury kill kits containing trophies in remote locations. He could visit these sites to retrieve the items when he wanted to relive his crimes, then rebury them. But even this elaborate precaution shows the power of the compulsion. Rather than simply disposing of evidence, Keyes went to extraordinary lengths to keep his trophies while minimizing risk. The psychological need was that strong. Now, it's important to note that not all serial killers keep trophies. This behavior is more common among certain types of offenders. Organized serial killers, those who plan their crimes carefully and maintain control during the murder, are more likely to take trophies. They see killing as a project or accomplishment worth commemorating. Disorganized killers, who act more impulsively and chaotically, are less likely to take trophies. Their crimes are more about momentary impulse than sustained fantasy. Similarly, killers whose primary motivation is mission-oriented, those who believe they're ridding the world of a certain type of person, may not keep trophies. The act itself is the point, not the memorialization of it. So trophy taking is a behavioral signature that tells us something about the type of killer we're dealing with. It suggests someone who is organized, fantasy-driven, and psychologically invested in their crimes as part of their identity. Understanding trophy-taking behavior has real implications for law enforcement. First, when police find potential trophies during a search, they can cross-reference these items with missing persons cases. This has led to the identification of victims and the linking of previously unconnected murders. Second, the nature of the trophies can provide psychological insights into the offender. What they choose to keep reveals what aspect of the crime was most significant to them. Did they keep something that symbolizes the victim's identity? Something that represents their moment of power? Something sexual in nature? Each choice tells investigators something about the killer's psychological profile. Third, the organization and care given to trophies can indicate how sophisticated and controlled the killer is. A carefully cataloged collection suggests someone who is methodical and likely to continue killing in a planned manner. Finally, the presence of trophies can sometimes help predict when a killer might strike again. If the psychological need for trophies is strong, and if law enforcement can somehow disrupt access to those trophies, it might accelerate the killer's timeline, making them more desperate and potentially more careless. So why do serial killers keep trophies? The answer is complex and disturbing. Trophies allow them to relive their crimes and sustain their fantasies. They represent power, control, and ownership over victims. They validate the killer's secret identity and provide a sense of accomplishment. And they help manage the urge to kill again during cooling-off periods. But perhaps most chillingly, the very existence of trophies reveals just how deeply some individuals become invested in their crimes. The psychological compulsion is so strong that it overrides even the basic instinct for self-preservation. Understanding this behavior doesn't just satisfy our curiosity about the criminal mind. It provides law enforcement with tools to identify, profile, and ultimately catch these offenders. Every trophy recovered is a piece of evidence. Every pattern observed is an insight into the killer's psychology. The next time you hear about police finding a collection of items in a suspect's home, you'll understand the deeper psychological significance. Those aren't just objects. They're windows into one of the darkest aspects of human psychology. If you found this video insightful, please like and subscribe to Criminal Psyche for more deep dives into criminal psychology. What case or psychological topic should we cover next? Let me know in the comments below.